down on the valley. Hope to be fly fishing till the day that I die. Spring has thawed out, long bitter winter. Water is clear and the skies are blue. I'm standing in the middle of the Beaver Kill River. Might even catch and release one or two. Well, some folks like horses, cats or dogs. Me, I like fishing with a rod and a fly. If fishing is flavor, pastime of mine. If I couldn't do it, I think I would cry. Hey, trout is rising in the far eddy. Make a false cast, then take my aim. If he takes fly, I feel so much better. And if he doesn't, I'll feel more shame. Stoneflies and caddis and the riffles are plenty. Mayflies are courting on fragrant breeze. And the cedar wax wings come down from the heavens, wait for their dinner up in the pine trees. Well, the water is cold, my waders leak. It's raining now on my favorite stream. I'll bear it all just to fish with a feather, so when I sleep I will have a sweet dream. Oh, life is good when I'm wading the river. It gets even better when I cast a fly. If I catch a trout, it don't really matter. It's fun just to be here and give it a try. Ripples and waves, pools and eddies, trout are rising for the dry fly. And the sun is shining down on the valley. Hope to be a fly fishing till the day that I die. Yeah, I hope to be a fly fishing till the day that I die. Hey folks, it's getting a little chilly out here. Anyway, I'm doing my show today outside because it's the first time I've been able to. It's been so cold all winter, and finally it's starting to break up here. Today is actually, I think, St. Patty's Day or whatever it is, Wednesday, March something or other. And so I'm doing the show outside, and you're probably going to see this sometime in April, so you've probably, I'm back, you've probably already spent some time fishing. Opening day is April 1st, and I hope you went out and had a good time. Now, today's show, I'm going to talk about safety on the stream. There's a lot of people like to go fishing, and a lot of people go near moving water, and they go out into the stream and wade around and do all kinds of fun things, or they go out in a boat and do all kinds of fun things. But whenever you're on water, you got to remember it can be hazardous, it can be dangerous, and you need to respect water. You may notice, doink, 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 that I have safety glasses on. These aren't just safety glasses to protect my eyes from flies going around. These are polarized glasses, and I call these safety glasses for several reasons. One, they protect my eyeballs from being zapped by a stray hook on a bad cast or something, but they also allow me to see in the water. I can see the bottom, I can see the trout, I can see how deep it is usually. And another thing you want to always carry is a wading staff. Most of the time on the stream, I just find a stick. This one's kind of dead and rotted, but I wouldn't trust this too much. But the point is, you want to have a wading staff when you're wading in the water, okay? And help maintain your balance. That's something about safety right there. Whenever you have waders, I'm going to show you a couple of different pairs of waders I have. They have the real baggy waders that are, you know, they're the breathable waders, whatever you want to call them, but they're usually extra large because you have to squat and get all the air out of them. Make sure you wear a belt with those, because the larger volume size, if you did go swimming in the current, it would fill up and be tremendously heavy. So you want to keep that in mind. But here's a pair of hip boots that I use, and I buy a new pair every couple of years. These are some Orvis waders. You want to make sure you get felt-soled waders. The felt sole, and you can see from walking, I've worn some holes in these almost, but the felt sole allows you to grip the stones on the bottom of the current, and it allows you to walk pretty comfortably. They do build up with mud sometimes and algae and stuff, and they do get kind of slippery. And another caution is with the whirling disease out there, what you want to do is you want to make sure you clean these real good and with Clorox and get all the mud out if you go to different streams. If you fish the same stream, it's probably not a big deal because you're fishing the same stream all the time. But I like to go to different streams and different waterways. These are exactly the way I left them after I hung them up last year. But these are nice hip boots, and you want to make sure that you hook these to a belt. Okay, and you got a little clasp here. You want to make sure you hook these, and so these stay up tight. Okay, if you do go in over the waders, they're going to stay in position, and you're still going to be able to swim a little bit. So those are hip boots. They only come up to about right here, and they're pretty comfortable on hot days. They're not very good in cold weather conditions or in deep, fast water. These things can fill up, and it's just very cold once these fill up with water. When you're fishing in cold water, you want something like this. Come here. These are chest waders, and these are neoprene chest waders. They got these big straps and everything on them, so they go over your shoulders, and they clip on. You got a little pocket here for all kinds of good stuff. I don't know what that is. But you got a nice pocket here, carry stuff. Pull these up nice and tight. What's nice about these in cold water conditions, like in the wintertime, these things are very warm. Okay? They do tear easy. You can catch them on sticks and things and rip them, but they're easy to patch with some rubber cement. And again, these are, let that truck go by, these are boot waders. Okay? They have the boot attached. Another form of wader is a stocking foot wader, where you actually have like a little stocking, you know, those slippers you used to have when you were a kid, you know, the pajamas with the slipper attached to them. That's what they're like. And then you buy a boot that goes over them. That is much more comfortable than these type of waders, because you can get a boot that fits your foot nice and snug, and they usually last for quite a long time. Okay, so those are these are chest waders, and the shorter ones are hip boots. Now you can get these in a variety of sizes at a bunch of different costs. I recommend having some type of wader in the early season. Now as summer comes along, the Susquehanna River and the Shenango River become very warm water and very friendly to people without waders. I just wear my sandals, and I slip and slide a little bit, but it's all right. Another safety feature for waders they're called corkers. These have little metal spikes attached here. This gets attached to the boot, and I even put these wood screws into the heel to help hold these on, just in case they do get blown off. These allow you to pretty much go anywhere you want on any kind of rocky, slippery condition. These things will not slip at all. They come in pairs, and you would put one on each foot, and there you go. Those are corkers. Now, a couple other safety features and things you want to remember when you're out there on the stream is especially in the early season. Every couple of years or so, you read in the paper where we lost another fisherman who may have wandered a little bit too far out into the current, and the current kind of dragged him along. Okay, cold water is serious business. Hypothermia can set in a matter of minutes, and anytime the water and the air temperature add up to less than 100, you should have neoprene waders on. Okay, that's just that's a canoeing trick. That's what the calculation we use for when we go canoeing, and you need a wetsuit if the air temperature and the water temperature add up and are still under 100 degrees. That's a good sound advice for fly fishermen and fishermen of all kinds too. Now, one of the things you want to remember whenever you go fishing, especially on moving water, like the rivers we have here in Broome County, or the Delaware, or the West Branch, the Beaverkill and Willow Weemock, you want to remember to let somebody know where you are. You want to tell your parents if you're a kid, and you want to tell everybody you can where you're going to be going and what time you are going to come home. This is very important, because if you say you're going to be home at 7 o'clock and it comes around 9 o'clock and you're still not home, somebody should be out there looking for you. Okay? And it's very important that if you say you're going to be home at 7, you go home at 7. Okay? It's not good to mislead people and think it's funny while you're out fishing. If you're going to be home at 9, you tell people I'll be home at 9. Okay? Also, never fish alone. Many times I have fished by myself and I had slipped on a rock and I could have broke my leg or broke my arm, or for some reason I couldn't walk out of there. If you're with somebody, they can at least go get help if you need it. And fly fishing is a social sport. Fishing of all kinds is a social sport. So keep that in mind. It's a nice sport for solitude and quiet, but it also demands fishing with somebody else, and that's for safety. Okay? You should always fish with a friend, and you should always let people know where you are and what time you are coming home. Another thing you want to remember, just because these are chest waders doesn't mean you can wade in up to your chest. When you go in that deep, you become buoyant, and what happens is you have less weight. There's less force holding you down to the bottom of the stream. So when you're wearing chest boots, when you go up to your waist, that's about the limit. Okay? If there's really strong current. If you're in a lake, it's probably not that serious. But in moving water, you have to be very careful. Another thing that gets fishermen into trouble is they wade in current that is too strong for them to wade across, and they get what's called foot entrapment. Okay, this can happen in knee-deep water where there's real strong current, and you try wading across, and what happens is your foot gets caught between a rock, and you slip and fall over. In the current, because your foot is caught under that rock, you get flipped down. Okay, this can cause serious bodily injury. Okay, be careful whenever you are wading to keep sideways to the current, and try not to turn your back to the current. If you turn your back to the current, there's force pushing against you, and you have to lean back, and it's hard to manage your balance at that point. Okay, it's very, very tricky to have your back to the current when you're in heavy current, when you're crossing a stream. So try not to do that. Sometimes you have to turn around to wade back where you were from, and some streams actually require, in order to be a good fisherman, you have to be an aggressive wader. So I want you to be an aggressive wader, but I also want you to be safe, and I want you to live a long time and be able to fly fish forever. Okay? So use a wading staff when you're in real heavy current. Okay? Use a wading staff. This allows you to poke the bottom and make sure you know there's no drop-offs. Okay? You can poke it and then you step in there. Okay? And so that's the wading staff. That's I talked a little bit about having somebody with you and telling people where you are, and also whenever possible fish with an adult. Okay, I go up to the Rwsea River, and it's very strong current and it can be very dangerous. I don't recommend kids fishing on wild class 3, 4 plus rivers by themselves, and if they do go with an adult, they should stay very close by and most likely upstream. In case somebody did slip in, they could be pulled out. Okay, so the parents should always stay downstream of younger people, even in the Susquehanna or the Shenango. The river bottoms here in our local rivers can be kind of slippery, and somebody could get slipping downstream and go for a good long cold swim, especially in the spring of the year. Now, trout season opened up April 1st, so again, I hope you were able to get out. Now, some folks may be saying, hey, where do you go fishing? Well, the newspaper always has a stocking report the week before, so probably this weekend, last weekend, this show is already airing after opening day, so that's a good hint to go. Shenango Valley State Park has plenty of fish in the early season. Nanaco Creek is close by. On April 1st is opening day, so I hope you got out. Also, a lot of the little ponds in our area, I guess up near Finch Hollow there's a pond. I guess they have brookies in there. And down below that, down near the Oakdale Mall, there's actually a pond there that has rainbows in it. And it's right up there. There's a little park there right across from the Johnson City High School. I should know the name of that, but I just go there. Nanaco Lake is a real nice place to fly fish in the early season. They stock it with a lot of rainbows, and they're all feeding pretty heavily up at the one end of the lake. Later on in the summer, it warms up too much, so they go to the far end where it's difficult to get to unless you have a boat. But again, I want you to be safe. If you have any questions or concerns about safety, please email me at avkurt@mac.com. Okay? avkurt@mac.com. You can email me your questions or concerns, or maybe I forgot something or something like that. Now, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit. I'm going to get on a wide shot, and I'm going to do some yarn rod casting. And hopefully, if you already know how to cast, maybe this is just boring. But if you don't know how to cast, maybe this will help you learn a few hints, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Fly-O yarn rod do-flingy here, and I'm going to do some casting for you, okay? And the wind is really bad here. Here we are. I have my Rwsea Fly-O yarn rod. This is a Joan Wolf and Lee Wolf product. Another thing I picked up on eBay, and it was pretty cheap, so I picked it up. It was mint condition, and it's great for practicing your cast. Now, whenever you're casting with a fly rod, it's good to have just like you're picking up a suitcase. That's the grip position with your thumb on top of the reel seat. Okay? Now you want to think of a clock. Straight up and down is 12 o'clock. Then you go back to 1 o'clock, and then you go forward to 11 o'clock. So when you're looking at your yarn rod cast, you're going 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Okay? The wind's going to mess me up here. Stop, wind. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That's your basic false cast, okay? That's called the false cast. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's basically what you're doing is when you go back, you're loading the rod, you stop, and then it accesses the power of the rod. Same thing when you go forward. You bend the rod, you stop at 11 o'clock, it accesses the power of that rod. Very simple physics experiment. Okay? 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Now your false cast is where you go down to the 9 o'clock position. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 9 o'clock. That's where you would present your fly to the trout. Okay? Now, if you practice your yarn rod and get out in the yard, it's starting to get nice out. I know it's after April 1st, but I really don't do a lot of fly fishing till the second week of April, or even the third week, and maybe sometimes not even till May 1st. Personally, I think April 1st is way too early for trout season in New York. First of all, the insects aren't really working that well. The water's cold, and the stocked fish have only been in the water maybe a week before you're taking them out. Okay, I practice catch and release, so I don't really care about taking the fish out. When I go fishing, I want to catch fish. I don't want to just eat fish. I want to catch fish, and that's why I love fishing. I like to go fishing and catch fish. But anyway, get out in your yard and practice the old yarn rod. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And just practice that routine. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You get that clock position down, and you can use that with a spay rod, a two-handle rod. It's still 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Okay? Even with a spay rod, it's still 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Then if you also want to use your whole arm, it's 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Okay? I'm catching my clothesline. So you can use your whole arm instead of the microsecond wrist. For short casts, I like people to use the microsecond wrist because that's all you need. You don't need to use your whole arm. You just use your microsecond wrist, make your nice little short cast. But for longer casts, you're going to need to use more arm and have a little bit forward and backwards motion to it. But either way, get out and practice. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. So get out there and do some casting and be safe on the river. And I'll see you next week, folks, all right? Next week, I think I'm going to talk about the mayfly and its life cycle. I know last week I promised you the mayfly, but I'm putting it off a week because I thought it was so important to talk about safety. So, now you know, polarized safety glasses are necessary, and waders to keep you warm and dry, and corkers to keep you from slipping, and also the felt sole on the bottom will keep you from slipping as well. So be safe, folks, and we'll see you next week for the mayflies.
It all stirs a feeling to walk the trail again unto the far horizon where I have never been. It's all out there, it calls to me, land that I may never set my eyes on. But I know it's there, wild and free on that distant far horizon. When the clouds build up like castles, the wind is singing true. Fire up on the mountain, storms are brewing too. It all makes me thankful of this earth I am a part. I can feel it in my bones, know it in my heart. It's all out there, it calls to me, land that I may never set my eyes on. But I know it's there, wild and free on the distant far horizon. Distant paths are calling, lead me ever on. I guess it's just my nature to be a rambling one. As long as there are wild lands, that's where I wanna be. walking softly in the shadows of the last of the big old trees. There's a far horizon calling, it's someplace I'll never go, but it's pristine and clean and wild, and that's all I have to know. It's all out there, it calls to me, land that I may never set my eyes on, but I know it's there, wild and free on that distant far. Distant far, distant far horizon.
Fishing with a fly. I hope I do it till the day that I die. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing, fishing with a fly. Sit in my room all winter long, tying little flies while I whistle in the song. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing, fishing with a fly. Springtime, I go to the stream, fish all day long, and at night I like to dream. I dream about fishing, dream about fishing. Yes, I dream about fishing, fishing with a fly. Catch to a trout just over there. If he takes the fly, I don't really care. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing, fishing with a fly. Ask me if I'm happy, do I look satisfied? Fishing has a way to keep the twinkle in my eye. Like to go fishing. Yes, I like to go fishing. I like to go fishing, fishing with a fly. Hey folks, see you next week.